Take a close look at your own arm for a second. The shade of your skin is one of the very first things the world notices about you. It shapes how people see us, how we see ourselves, and historically, it's been linked to culture, identity, and unfortunately, centuries of social conflict. But if you strip away all the cultural baggage and look at this purely through the lens of evolutionary biology, skin tone is actually one of the most brilliant, flexible survival strategies ever invented by nature. And here's the wild part. If you trace your family tree back far enough, every single person reading this shares the exact same biological starting point. Around 250,000 years ago, modern humans, Homo sapiens, first emerged on the sun-drenched savannas of East Africa, somewhere around the modern-day borders of Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania. Back then, every single human on Earth had dark skin. And that wasn't an accident. It was a life-saving adaptation. Dark skin is packed with a natural pigment called eumelanin, which acts like built-in, heavy-duty sunscreen. Out on the open African equator, relentless ultraviolet radiation from the sun constantly threatens to destroy essential nutrients like folate in your bloodstream and damage skin cell DNA. High levels of eumelanin absorbed those dangerous rays, shielding our earliest ancestors so they could thrive and hunt under the intense equatorial sun. So how on earth did our species go from a single, dark-skinned population in Africa to occupying every chilly corner of the globe with a full spectrum of different skin tones? To answer that, we have to look at one of the greatest road trips in history, the epic, multi-generational expansion of modern humans out of Africa. Now, human migration wasn't a neat, organized, one-way highway. It was a chaotic, winding process that took tens of thousands of years, with groups moving forward, retracing their steps, and merging with other populations. While there's evidence that small bands of adventurous humans tiptoed out of Africa as early as 120,000 years ago, those early journeys were temporary blips. Back then, giant Ice Age mammals and our heavy-browed cousins, the Neanderthals, still dominated much of Europe and Asia. The big game changer happened around 70,000 years ago. A major group of humans successfully crossed out of East Africa and established a permanent foothold in the Middle East and the Arabian Peninsula. And right around this time, inside the cells of this specific expanding population, a tiny genetic typo occurred in a gene called KITLG. The KITLG gene produces a vital protein involved in directing pigment-producing cells called melanocytes. This single mutation slightly dialed down the production of dark eumelanin pigment. As the descendants of this Middle Eastern population continued to spread out across Eurasia over the next several thousand generations, they carried this brand new KITLG mutation in their DNA. Today, you can find this exact genetic marker in modern humans, with Middle Eastern, European, Asian, and indigenous American ancestry. But if you test the DNA of indigenous sub-Saharan African populations, whose ancestors never left the continent during this migration wave, that specific mutation is completely absent. That tiny genetic footprint acts like a molecular clock, proving exactly when and where that ancient mutation took place. Meanwhile, a second, separate group of humans took a completely different path out of Africa around the exact same time. Instead of heading north into the Middle East, this group traveled south along the coastlines of the southern Arabian Peninsula, moving into India, Southeast Asia, and eventually reaching Australia. Because this southern migration route stayed in warm tropical latitudes with intense sunlight, these populations never underwent the KITLG mutation. Natural selection favored keeping high levels of dark pigment intact, which is why indigenous populations along this southern route retained dark skin suited for high UV environments. Now, let's follow the northern branch. By about 40,000 years ago, the Middle Eastern population began fanning out into two main directions. One group pushed northwest into Europe, while another headed northeast across the cold, vast steppes of Siberia. As the European branch pushed deeper into northern latitudes over the next 25,000 years, they ran into a brand new biological crisis: a severe lack of sunlight. In places like northern Europe, winters are long, dark, and brutal. If your skin is packed with heavy dark pigment in a low sunlight environment, it blocks almost all ultraviolet light. But you actually need a small amount of UVB light to strike your skin so your body can produce vitamin D, a critical nutrient needed for building strong bones and maintaining a healthy immune system. Ancient humans who moved north with dark skin began suffering from severe vitamin D deficiencies and bone diseases like rickets. Enter natural selection once again. Random genetic mutations that lighten skin suddenly became a huge survival advantage in the north. Humans with lighter skin could synthesize enough vitamin D even during weak, gloomy winters. In the European population, key mutations occurred in two specific transporter genes named SLC24A5 and SLC45A2. These genes code for proteins that help manufacture dark eumelanin. When these mutations tweaked the proteins, eumelanin production plummeted, resulting in significantly lighter skin tones that allowed maximum sunlight absorption. At the exact same time, the ancestral population moving northeast through Asia was solving the exact same vitamin D problem, but through a totally different genetic pathway. In this East Asian branch, a mutation popped up in a gene called MFSD12. This mutation altered how pigment cells produced a different type of melanin called pheomelanin, which has a light reddish-yellow hue. By cranking up pheomelanin production and turning down dark eumelanin, this mutation lightened skin tone across Asian populations. By 25,000 years ago, humans carrying this adapted gene had reached the eastern edge of Asia. About 15,000 years ago, during the last ice age, some of these Asian populations crossed the Bering Land Bridge, a frozen tundra connection between modern-day Russia and Alaska, and entered the Americas. They migrated rapidly down through North America, across Central America, and all the way to the tip of South America, adapting to local climates along the way. To make things even more fascinating, both European and East Asian populations independently developed additional mutations in two other pigment genes, OCA2 and MC1R. These additional genetic tweaks further reduced dark pigment production, fine-tuning skin tones to match the specific solar intensity of northern regions. By about 10,000 years ago, modern humans had successfully colonized almost every continent on Earth. And what emerged was a striking, near-perfect global pattern. Latitude dictates skin tone. Populations whose ancestors lived near the equator, where sunlight is intense year-round, evolved dark skin to protect against dangerous UV radiation. Populations whose ancestors moved toward the poles, where sunlight is scarce, evolved lighter skin to maximize vitamin D production. And here's the ultimate takeaway. This melanin control system isn't even unique to humans. Eumelanin and pheomelanin pigment systems are used across almost the entire animal kingdom. It's the exact same biological pigment mechanism that colors the fur of your dog, the feathers of a songbird, the skin of a blue whale, and even the exoskeleton of a desert ant or a migratory locust. So, what does all this science really tell us? On one level, our skin color feels deeply personal. It's tied to our heritage, our family stories, and the beautiful diversity of human culture. But biologically speaking, skin tone is literally only skin deep. It's nothing more than a flexible, evolutionary solar panel designed to balance UV protection with vitamin D production. We are all members of a single, highly adaptable species, and under the surface, our shared story is written in the exact same DNA.